The Haunting of Castle Malloy should be a fun game to do a shipping video for because the game has a big love triangle. That's a major part of the game. Kyler's getting married to Matt, but Matt's best friend Kit used to date Kyler. He still has major feelings for her. Let's start with what the game gives us. Matt Simmons is kind of irresponsible and likes playing practical jokes. When he disappears before the wedding, everyone assumes it's just another joke. They're half right. He was hiding in a secret passageway so he could scare Kyler with ghostly noises. That's when he fell into the underground bunkers. Matt seems completely sincere when he says he's ashamed of himself and how he ruined the wedding for a dumb practical joke. He loves Kyler, and he's so lucky to have her because she's a much better person than he is. Once he escapes, he says he loves her over and over again, and their wedding's a happy one. I think it's safe to assume that he did change his life around to be the man that Kyler deserves. Or at least he stopped doing stupid practical jokes. I have to say, that's a decent love story. Matt's love for Kyler makes him a better person. I'm not going to interfere with that. And besides, the only other woman Matt can date in this game is Fiona the Banshee, so I pick Matt with Kyler. Kit Foley is the odd one out in the love triangle. He used to date Kyler, and I don't think we're told why they broke up. Kit still has a romantic picture of him and Kyler. Why on earth would he bring that with him when Kyler's marrying someone else? I can't imagine him showing that picture to anyone without making them upset. Maybe he brought the picture just for himself so he could moon over it. He'll stare at it for hours, thinking about all the good times he had with Kyler, wishing she was marrying him instead. Kind of desperate, Kit. Maybe he secretly hoped he could show Kyler the picture and she'd change her mind about the wedding. I don't know. I don't think he was intentionally trying to sabotage the wedding, but it does kind of look that way. Nancy overhears a private conversation between Kit and Kyler. He tries to convince her Matt got cold feet and left. Kit said similar things to Nancy earlier. Kyler doesn't believe it for a second. She accuses Kit of trying to sabotage her relationship with Matt. As in, Kit purposely tried to get rid of Matt because he's still smitten with Kyler. Kyler confirms it's over, Kit. She's never getting back together with him and he needs to move on. I wonder if this conversation would have happened if Matt hadn't disappeared. Would Kit have tried to talk Kyler out of the marriage no matter what? Or is he just taking advantage of a good opportunity to get Kyler back? Is Kit legitimately fixated on Kyler? Or did they just make it seem that way so he'd look like the culprit? Because I'll be honest, I'd probably like the game more if Kit was the culprit. The next time Nancy talks to Kit, he readily admits he was wrong the whole time about why Matt disappeared. He seems sincere about this. At the end, we see Kit and Kyler talking in the garden. What were they talking about? We don't know. He seems upset when Kyler and Matt are reunited. He doesn't want to watch it. But then he starts dating the caterer at the wedding, and Nancy believes their relationship is solid. So Kit gets a happy ending after spending most of the game as the odd man out who's still desperately clinging to a dead relationship. Kit with the caterer is a good ending, and that's my official choice. I have to wonder how a Kit and Kyler relationship would have worked. So let's talk about Kyler Mallory. I thought Kyler was a perfectly normal character, but the internet has since convinced me that Kyler has some issues. She seems borderline delusional with her repeated insistence that everything is fine. It's totally normal for the groom to disappear right before the wedding. I'd understand if she's trying to put on a brave face in front of Nancy, but then Kyler does nothing for the rest of the game. She reads a book instead of looking for Matt, and she pawns off all wedding duties on Nancy. That's less trying to pretend things are normal and more of a raging state of denial. You have to wonder why she even wants to marry Matt if she legitimately believes he'd pull a stunt like this for fun. In the garden, Nancy finds Kyler's handwritten wedding vows. She crossed off a lot of things in anger and wrote something like, "What am I doing? I can't do this." We never get to talk to Kyler about that, which is disappointing. It's the only thing that indicates Kyler has second thoughts about the wedding and Matt's disappearance. If the game was going to end with Kyler and Kit getting back together, I think they'd have to push hard on the angle that Kyler is unsure about Matt. I'm kind of surprised they didn't, actually. Kyler could have been one of the game's suspects. Maybe she fake kidnapped her fiancé to avoid marrying him. But there's nothing that suggests Kyler's guilt outside of this one paper that no one ever talks about. Allan Payne says that Kit, Kyler, and Matt fought constantly, and it was especially nasty for three people who purport to be friends. Maybe the game could have gone more into that as well. Of course, to have Kyler end up with Kit, you'd have to totally change the conversation where she tells him it's over. Maybe change it so Kyler's the one who dropped the photo of her and Kit. Ooh, it's her romantic photo. That could have been a good plot twist. As you probably know, the game ends with Kyler being overjoyed to see Matt again. She can't wait to tell him that she loves him no matter what. She still has no idea he was kidnapped at this point. She still thinks it was just a prank. So she's saying she loves him despite the silly prank? She probably felt a lot better when she learned the truth that Matt did not leave her on purpose. I don't think the Kit and Kyler relationship would ever work. She's so firm when she says it's over. There's no doubt in my mind. And so my vote is to keep the game's ending the way it is, with Kyler as Mrs. Matt Simmons. I'm sticking with the original game's love triangle. Donal Delaney. There aren't a lot of dating options for Donal, because he has to be at least 50 years older than all the other characters. The only one who's near his age is Fiona the Banshee. Donal doesn't really know her, but he cares enough about her to make sure she gets the help she needs. He helps her get into a mental institution, and we're told she has a good prognosis. Hopefully that means she'll learn how to talk. I don't think she would date Donal right away. Let's say it's a year or two after the game, once she's released, she goes back to Castle Malloy to thank Donal and gather her things from the bog hut. That's when a relationship develops between the two of them. I think that is the way that Donal would find love with Fiona. There are other women in the Nancy Drew series who could be potential girlfriends for Donal, possibly someone who's quirky like him, or someone who likes giving Nancy chores like he does. Donal has a very strict get Irish or get out policy. I have a hard time picturing him dating somebody who's not Irish like he is. That basically limits him to people in this game, and that basically limits him to Fiona. Fiona the Banshee! I'm going with her and Donal for the reasons I just explained. You could argue she kidnapped Matt because she wants Matt to be her new boyfriend, but I really doubt it. Nancy Drew. Well, since I like Matt with Kyler, that basically leaves Nancy Drew with Kit. It helps that he's American, like she is. Kit's obsession with his ex-girlfriend is probably a deal breaker for a relationship, though. Nancy deserves someone without that much baggage, and I couldn't see Kit going on dates with Nancy without him regularly asking about Kyler. The more I think about it, the more I dislike the idea of Nancy and Kit as a couple. He might be good looking, but he's also pretty secretive about his real estate plans. He covers for it by being extra demanding with the seating chart. Yeah, he was a jerk to her at that point in the game. Not to mention he lies about how he got his black eye, even though the truth is fairly innocuous. I'm not sure she could have a long-distance relationship with Matt. Or a short-distance relationship with Matt. I don't see Nancy dating a prankster under any circumstances. She gets so fed up with Lucas's pranks in The Captive Curse, it's clear Nancy Drew hates pranks. Nancy does talk briefly with her boyfriend Ned in the opening scene. He doesn't want her to drive and use her cell phone at the same time. She should have listened to him because she quickly gets into a car accident. So let's say Ned wins. Nancy Drew with Ned. Allan Payne has, one conversation with Nancy? He vents about what happened at Castle Malloy and thanks Nancy for listening to him. It's hard to get a sense of his personality. He just seems annoyed with everyone. He seems to like Nancy, though. She's the only person he's not upset with. So let's go with Allan Payne and Nancy. They're working together as best man and maid of honor. They get caught up in the moment during the wedding and they share a kiss. I don't think it would go any farther than that, though. They'd probably part ways once the wedding is over. To recap, here are my choices. Matt Simmons with Kyler Mallory, Kit Foley with the caterer, Kyler Mallory with Matt Simmons, Donal Delaney with Fiona the Banshee, Fiona the Banshee with Donal Delaney, Nancy Drew with Ned Nickerson, and Allan Payne with Nancy Drew. I thought I was done with this video, but somebody on the internet reminded me I forgot about Seamus at the pub. So shout out to Alicia for correcting my mistake. I'm sorry, Seamus. I can't believe I forgot this guy. You could argue that Donal spends all his time at the pub because he secretly has a crush on Seamus, but nah, I think Seamus has a crush on Nancy. Why else would he talk to her so long when explaining how to mix drinks? So, Seamus with Nancy Drew, that's my pick. Now let's see what the internet has to say. Matt Simmons with Kyler Mallory and Allan Payne. Kyler obviously got more votes because that's who he dates in the game. Kit Foley with the caterer, with Nancy Drew in a close second. Kyler Mallory with Matt, winning over Kit by 7 votes. Then Kyler with Nancy Drew, winning over none by 1 vote. Denise Delaney with Fiona the Banshee, no question, and then none. Fiona the Banshee with Donal, and none. Nancy Drew with Kit and Ned. Ned got more votes. Allan Payne with Kyler, and none. So it looks like Donal and Fiona are the big couple of the game. The love triangle more or less plays out the same way it does in the game.